Coming up, we travel offshore to see firsthand how captured carbon can be stored. Is Rafnes going to become the world's most sustainable chemical plant? Behind the scenes with the INEOS Grenadiers cycling team for the biggest race of the year, the Tour de France. All this and the latest news from around the INEOS group. This is INTV. Hello and welcome to INTV, coming to you from Copenhagen as the teams are starting to arrive for the 2022 Tour de France Grand Départ.
And as you can see, there's lots of preparation that goes into getting the team ready, but more on that later.
Yes, indeed, from road bikes to road maps. As we know, all around INEOS, the sites are putting together plans to achieve net zero carbon emissions by at least 2050, and some are even sooner.
To achieve this, many industries will have to come together to capture CO2 at source and permanently store it. Here in Denmark, INEOS are doing just that with Project Greensand.
At INEOS Energy, we're looking to provide tools for people to be able to decarbonise their energy consumption. If you're in energy, you know that the business is transitioning. I think that it's very easy to skip forward to 2050 and say, let's do things differently. Very important thing we have to do is supply our customers now with the energy that they need. If you don't have energy, it's hard to have industry and it's hard to move around, it's hard to heat your home and hospitals. So to have that energy at the same time as being able to make a commitment to be net zero by 2050 is very important. It's existential in many ways for the way in which people live today, is how do you continue to use energy but at the same time decarbonise. The carbon capture and storage is an important part of the mix of decarbonising the world's energy. There's a project we've got going in Denmark, Project Greensand. Project Greensand is special because it's world leading.
We have two phases of Greensand. We have the pilot project and we have a commercial phase. So the pilot project will take the CO2 from Antwerp oxide plant, where they're already capturing the CO2. And what we will do is we'll put it into ISO containers in a liquid stage, and we'll take it out via a production support vessel, which will sail out around 500 kilometers to platform, where we will install a pump and inject it via a rig into the reservoir. And it's very important to do the monitoring as part of that and see how that will work essentially and maintain the CO2 down there. We're also going to monitor it via the pressure and the temperature to make sure it's well condensed down there and it behaves as we want it to.
So that's the pilot phase to test the injectivity. In the full phase of the commercialisation of the project, our intention is to build a network of ships and storage of CO2 on land around anywhere that's accessible to here as a ship-based solution. We'll have a permanent connection where the ship can sail up, it connects to that and then pump the CO2 into the reservoir at a rate of 4 to 8 million tonnes per annum.
It's essential for the people that we can maintain this industry. It means that we can again repurpose the infrastructure, but what it also means is that a lot of the employees we have out here will have a secure job for many years to come.
Looking into the future for myself and for my colleagues, we have the skills already to operate and operate safely offshore. So looking at my own part, it's going to be many more years in an asset like this that perhaps had like 5 years left. Now we're talking decades.
It's very exciting because the symmetry between us having extracted the hydrocarbons, then using the same skills and techniques to put the CO2 back in again really fits well with what we're trying to do here.
Denmark has one of the most ambitious climate targets. It's around 70% reduction, and inside that agreement Denmark has a target to reduce up to 20 million tons. 8 million tons of that is earmarked for CCS in Denmark, and Project Greensand has the potential to actually fulfill that fully over time. So it is actually a very huge potential we have in just one project here.
Well, for Denmark it's important, and so important that the government has been very involved in helping us do this. I mean, we can't do this kind of thing on our own. We need to have the right laws in place, the right regulatory support, and the right partners. So we have a consortium of a number of partners that have come together to work really closely on making sure this is a success.
INEOS is a very important partner for Denmark in reaching its climate goal of 70% reduction in 2030. there's no doubt that there is a huge complexity to start a carbon capture, transport, storage adventure that we are engaging in now. And that's why government support is so vital. And we have the government support in the sense that the government has decided that they have a vision of becoming a European hub for carbon capture storage in Denmark. And for that, we need strong partners like INEOS, and we need also strong shipping companies who can build the ships that can transport the carbon from Denmark, but also from other places where you capture carbon into the North Sea for storage.
Well, as Port of Antwerp, we host the biggest petrochemical cluster of Europe, the second largest of the world. The challenge in the energy transition is to change not only the production of energy, for instance, but to rethink the whole energy system and bring the right people on the right table in the right moment and looking and put their noses in the same direction. And so having Greensand and INEOS leading the way and becoming the first mover and bring that liquefied CO2 by ship and go to Denmark is a nice thing to have, because seeing is believing, and for everyone it will be clear that this technology is not a dream, but it is reality right now.
Here in Antwerp we produce ethylene oxide, and now in the process of producing ethylene oxide, CO2 is produced. We try to keep that as low as possible, of course, but it is a byproduct that we cannot avoid. So we will supply the CO2 for the project. We have been capturing the CO2 on this site for decades, so a proven technology, we know it works. And that's the same in the whole of this project. We are now just connecting the dots. If Greensand proves to be successful, and we are convinced it will, then it can effectively contribute to roadmaps all over the world.
2050's net zero. Actually, for the world to meet the commitments to make sure it doesn't heat up, you need to get to net negative beyond 2050, and that's why the IEA scenarios that look at carbon capture actually pinpoint them as an important enabler of that second part of the phase. If you wait until you get to 2050 to start storing CO2, you're not going to get to that net negative balance. The great thing about INEOS is the people that work here aren't afraid of a blank sheet of paper and saying, here's a big problem, let's actually set about trying to do something different.
Carbon capture storage is one of the things towards carbon neutrality that we have to get right. There is no way we can fail on this. We need to get the right things in place in order for us to also have carbon capture storage in place no later than 2025.
However successful Project Greensand is, it's still only one part of our journey to net zero emissions. Over in Norway at our Rafnes site, something quite special is going on. The team there have developed robust roadmaps that aim to hit their carbon emission reduction targets from several different angles.
This site is like the biggest employer in this municipality, so it's obvious it's important for the local community. INEOS Rafnes site gives a lot of people jobs, so working here we have responsibility to the local community to operate the plants safe and take care of surrounding areas and nature. The environment is important for the people who work here. We have to reduce our emissions. We have only one planet to live on, so it's important to protect it.
We have developed a CO2 reduction roadmap for the combined site of INEOS and INEOS OMP.
And I think we are really on a good track to be able to reduce our emissions of CO2. So far we have split our approach into two phases. The first part, phase one, which we are looking into trying to finalize by 2030, is really electrification. Norway is in the unique position that we have a lot of hydropower. 98% of the electricity consumed in Norway is hydropower. It means that we have clean, green electricity for our purposes, which so far not so many other producers have. This plant has electrified a lot already. 2 out of 3 big compressors is already electrified, which was done very, very early. A lot of smaller projects where the main part is electrification. The second phase is then carbon catch. And when splitting this into the 2 phases, we will be able by phase 1 to reduce emission by 25%. It's approximately 100,000 tons CO2 per year. This equates to the emission of 50 to 55,000 cars per year.
We are Innovin and we are an INEOS company. We have 2 plants located at Rafnes, a chlorine and a VCM plant. And then at the other side of the fjord we have our PVC plant at Herøya.
We have a couple of major projects coming up here now, what we call green projects. And one of them is a new facility for production of hydrogen.
This is the area where we are wanting to install a 20 megawatt electrolyzer producing 3,000 tons of hydrogen. We are already producing hydrogen in our chlorine plants, and thus we already have experience in producing hydrogen in a safe way, in a safe manner. And we have the benefit of, if we get to build a hydrogen plant here, we will be able to utilize that hydrogen internally in our VCM plant, and we will be able to utilize also the oxygen that is being produced. This will reduce our carbon footprint by about 20,000 tons per year.
The Aquarius project is, I think, the first project on this planet where we are combining a hydrogen water electrolysis unit and a VCM plant. And the beauty of that is that we will save CO2 both through the hydrogen stream and the oxygen stream.
The project Aquarius is going to be a very expensive project. It's a big project, it's going to be costly. And it's even more costly to be the front runner, to be the first one out. So we are relying on the Norwegian government to be supportive, and we've cooperated quite closely with the governmental body of Enova.
Enova is a state-owned company working with different aid measures to increase the speed of technology development, to decrease the emission of climate gases. Hydrogen as an energy carrier will be the part of the future. And in the Innovin project Aquarius, we have this integration between this hydrogen production on one side and the process of the industry on the other side.
Our relationship with the Norwegian government, I think it's for the benefit of both the government and INEOS. And the reason for that is, of course, that the government has a target to reduce the emissions. So the government are seeking partnerships with industries that can be early movers here, and we have the same sort of interest. We want to be an early mover and want to use this window of opportunity and hopefully develop green opportunities also to business opportunities, because that's what's needed to sort of get this moving. It's to make sustainability a business idea.
And so in addition to Project Aquarius as well, we're also working on a large project to reduce a CO2 footprint through electrifying the parts of the VCM plant that emits the most CO2.
Innovin Electra project is important because we are replacing fossil fuel with renewable electricity.
I started working at Innovin a year ago, and being able to work on this project was one of the reasons I really wanted this job.
This process is complicated, it's a high risk, and we want to support that project to increase the speed and increase the possibility to succeed.
The green project we're working on, it's development projects. Some of them are really breaking new technology, and we are really proud at Rafnes to be a part of something that could be implemented for several plants and other industries as well.
Net zero is very important to the people that work here because we need the employees to be proud of working here. We need the employees to be able to tell their children, their grandchildren, their grandparents that this is a clean and safe environment to work in. And they also need to know that we're doing everything we can to take care of the surrounding areas. And it's also important because our employees, they live where everybody else lives. So we're doing everything we can to move towards net zero, and it's important for us that our employees are proud of that. That's very important because we need, for the future, we need to attract talent, we need to attract apprentices, we need to attract people that want to live close to the industry, and we also want to attract people that want to work with industry.
Sustainability is important for the people that work here because we are proud of our workplace, and knowing that we are considerate of the environment, both locally and globally, is important to the community here.
The Aquarius project and the goal to reduce the CO2 emissions is a step in the right direction.
If we aren't upfront with this, we won't survive. So it's important that we start this journey now.
Lots of projects, and takes a lot of resource to do it. It's not only one project, just do it and then we are ready.
For me as well personally, it is a great feeling to be part of making the future a better future for both my children and other children. To be part of something bigger than what you feel you do in everyday life is a great feeling, and I'm very excited about it.
But for me personally, I think it's highly motivating also to be working with some projects that I know will do good for the world. You know, I have two daughters, and who knows, maybe I will be a grandfather one day, and I mean to be able to see them in their eyes and tell them that at least I was part of the start of the green transition, that feels pretty good.
So, you might wonder why we're here in Copenhagen. Not only is it playing centre stage to Project Green Sand, it's also the start of this year's Tour de France. A gruelling 3-week stage race which will see the riders cover over 3,300 kilometres over mountainous climbs and fast flats. And keeping the riders on the move is a dedicated team of people working tirelessly in the background. We caught up with a few of them to find out what goes on behind the scenes at the world's biggest bike race.
We just arrived here in Denmark, a little bit outside Copenhagen. Now we just set the whole camp up, and we're gonna start to wash the vehicles, do the washing of laundries and do the rooms, just in general set everything up.
Everyone has their role because of the dynamic environment. You have to be so flexible, and everyone's like willing to help whoever has time. That's essential in this environment, and one of the strengths of the backup team.
A typical day on a Tour de France is that they're long days. They tend to be full on from first thing in the morning to last thing at night. We're working at a really high level here with INEOS Grenadiers, and the expectations from the riders and from the staff are always high, and we always have to be on it. You can get a drama at any time, and it's just being ready for that, being available and being sharp of mind when something happens. A lot of the work that we do is working with the nutritionists to try to optimise the nutritional input to make sure that their weights are ideal, so that we get the rider to the start line at the beginning of the race in the best possible shape.
It's a perfectly fully functioning kitchen. Everything works really well. You've got all the toys we need. We've got everything which does everything well. I'd love a barbecue, for sure. I think that'd be great, like a nice little outside barbecue, or even like a little pizza oven. We can't have everything. Cleanliness is key. We could potentially make multiple riders sick, and then that's game over. That's one of the main reasons why we have chefs, the main reason why we're not eating in hotels, so that we can make sure we keep the quality of where we work the same all the time. You end up going to some hotels and the kitchens are pretty scary looking. Even having our small kitchen van is really important because we can control this entire area, which is really nice. An interesting request I've had for this race is truffle omelets. So I've managed to pick up some nice truffles here in Copenhagen. I wouldn't say that's the weirdest, but probably one of the most decadent omelettes we would do. I wouldn't say anything too crazy out of normal. We need to keep things relatively plain for the riders. You don't want to upset too many stomachs with too many jazzy flavours. Doing like a sweet harissa grilled chicken with a nice little herby couscous with some za'atar carrots and a little red cabbage salad with a nice little tahini pomegranate dressing.
INEOS Grenadiers!
Washing riders' laundry can make a big difference, because if they get infection through their clothing or through their chamois, they can get a cell sore infection, and that means winning or losing the race. We're here in a service truck. This is the middle area with all the drying machines, wash machines. After the stage, each rider has dirty laundry, and especially in the cold weather or rainy days, and it's all extra dirty. So that's why we have 3 wash machines and 3 dryers. We wash each rider's bag separate, so each rider goes in each machine. So if we have 8 riders, we need 8 cycles to wash their kit.
This is the team bus, place where our riders spend a lot of time in the transfer from the hotel to the start of the stage in the morning. So this is the seat of Garen Thomas. In the team we call him G. This is the equipment that he uses on a daily basis. He has the choice in between different helmets. He obviously has his rain bags. He's actually a Tour de France winner. He won the race in 2018, so he knows exactly what it takes to win one of the biggest cycling races in the world. We're now what we call the little office of the bus. So this is where a lot of us are spending time working, doing the plans. Several people are also traveling in the bus during the day, so they can do meetings, we can shut the doors, they can watch the race. So this is the nutrition compartment where we actually store most of what the riders will need on the day. And this is mainly the nutrition that they will use throughout the race for them to perform as best as possible.
The back of the bus tends to be one of the most hectic places on race if we've had a spill, if somebody's crashed. And we always have to be on it. You have to be ready for things. You can get drama at any time, and it's just being ready for that.
So we've just found out the hard work that goes into preparing the INEOS Grenadiers ahead of the Tour. And critical to this is the bike setup. I'm joined here by Aaron, who's a mechanic with the INEOS Grenadiers, who sets up the bike ahead of every stage. So Aaron, talk us through how you get the bike set up.
Well, for all of our riders, they of course all have a primary bike, secondary bike and third bike, all the same setup. Before the race, most of the work we do is the night before, so after the stage we wash all the bikes, do a bolt check, make sure nothing's damaged or broken or worn down on the bike, and of course lubricate everything for the next day. Normally the next morning we just have to pump up the tires and get them ready to go, but yeah, it's quite a thorough inspection that we do every day on the bike.
And for some of us who aren't quite up to Tour de France distances just yet, what would your top tips be for anyone who's wanting to get their bike set up safe and ready to roll?
Well, I would say no matter what bike you have, whether it's a road bike, a mountain bike, gravel bike, cyclocross bike, or even a town bike, there are 3, maybe 4 very important points that I would say you need to check every time before you go riding. First, you want to make sure that you have the proper tire inflation. You're not too low, not too high on the tire pressure. If you have too high of a pressure, you could maybe have slide out in a corner or lose your traction. If you have too low of a tire pressure, of course you'll feel like you're fighting the bike. It's a much harder ride. Second point is whether you have disc brakes or you have rim brakes, you want to make sure that you don't have any rubbing, because any rubbing is of course resistance and will slow you down as well. And then the third point, depending on the conditions that you're riding in, you want to make sure that of course your bike is clean, and then once it's clean, of course lubricate the chain, because a clean and well lubricated bike is a bike that lasts longer, your group set lasts longer, and all in all the bike runs much smoother.
So no matter the standard, no matter the bike, it's all the same?
The bike is, yes, it's all the same, I would say. No matter what type of bike you have, what type of bike you ride on, the principles remain the same across the board.
So, as the wheels continue to turn, let's see what else is spinning around the INEOS world.
At a ceremony in Houston, Texas, the latest ship to join the INEOS fleet was named in honour of our new off-road vehicle. The Pacific INEOS Grenadier was christened by her godmother, the chairman of Enterprise Products, Randa Duncan Williams.
I hereby name this vessel the Pacific INEOS Grenadier, and I wish for calm seas and safe sailing for her crew wherever they may go.
At 99,000 cubic meters, the Pacific INEOS Grenadier joins the Pacific INEOS Belstaff as the second of the world's largest ethane carriers and furthers our shipping capabilities. INEOS has just announced its entry into the global liquid and natural gas market. Already a leading exporter of ethane from the US, INEOS signed a 20-year heads-off agreement with energy transition specialists Sempra Infrastructure to provide 1.4 million tons of LNG export per annum from the Gulf Coast of the United States, to begin in 2025-26. Leading liquid food packaging provider Grapeview teamed up with INEOS and UPM Biofuels to develop its first sustainable packaging solution for liquid, dairy and non-carbonated beverages. Grapeview Planet Packaging will not only utilise natural feedstock from sustainably managed forests and other controlled sources, but also use INEOS and UPM's 100% bioattributed polymer to protect the products inside. In Germany, North Rhine-Westphalia state government has just confirmed €770,000 to fund and support a feasibility study for the construction of a 100 megawatt water electrolysis plant to help produce green hydrogen at the INEOS site in Cologne. INEOS plans to build and operate a new green hydrogen plant at the site as part of a €2 billion package for its green products across Europe, which were announced in October last year. And finally, congratulations to the INEOS Grenadiers for their results in cycling's most prestigious competition, the Tour de France. With former champion Geraint Thomas finishing third in the GC, debutant Tom Pidcock winning the gruelling Alpe d'Huez stage, and the Grenadiers clinching the team general classification title, the riders proved that the 2022 Tour de France was one to remember.
So Sophie, I'm sure you'd agree it's been really inspiring to get an insight into the team behind the team at the INEOS Grenadiers.
Absolutely, and it's been fascinating to hear more about our investment in carbon capture storage here in Denmark with Project Greensand.
Another clear example of using new technology to help us to achieve our commitment to net zero by 2050.
Thank you for joining us for another action-packed edition of INTV.
We'll see you next time for more inside news from INEOS.